What's going on, guys, and welcome back for another spoiler recap here at Big Gold Belt Media. I'm Cam, and over here to my right is Damien G. It's so confusing trying to figure out which side. And today we are here to talk about Invincible Season 3, Episode 4, coming February 13th, just in time for Valentine's Day on Prime Video. Okay, so this episode was let's start out from the jump. Let's just start out from the jump, right? I mean,
yeah,
I liked it, but at the same time, I didn't like this episode. And we try to be positive and negative when we do these reviews, of course, on these recaps. And this one for me just seemed like a filler episode. I'm not sure how you felt about this episode, Damien, but what did you get from it, and how did you feel this episode compared to the last three that we got to see in the premiere last week?
Well, in this one there was more fighty, less talky, which is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see more battles, more superheroing, if you will. It wasn't until we got on pre-show where we thought, oh, Valentine's Day. Oh, this is a romance, almost like a romance episode. Oh, teenage love vomit, you know. So it was one of those things where I didn't understand what was going on at that midpoint when we had the credits. I think all of us got confused. We're like, wait, what? But I liked that we finally went back to Alan and to Nolan, and we saw some fighting. So, and then we got a call back to the two guys who stole the Declaration of Independence. So it was an uneven episode. I think that's the easiest way for me to say it. It was uneven.
Yeah, definitely. I felt like it filled in some questions that we had for the first three episodes, because I think after watching that first episode last week when we did the recap, we were wondering what happened to those two twins that were still in the Declaration of Independence. I was like, are we not going to hear anything else about them? And we actually got a kind of a full circle story on them, and I'm not sure if we're going to see them again after this episode. That seems like their story arc is over at this point. But in the world of Invincible, you never know. Anybody can come back at any time, especially when you're talking about multi-dimensional or universal travel. So there's endless possibilities on here. So yeah, this episode kind of kicks off. We could see Rex and Shrinking Ray shopping for groceries, right? Which is a crazy normalization when you think about superheroes, like something they've never had to do at this point. Both of them talked about, like, what they did for food previously before this as they were Guardians. And Rex explained that he actually stole a credit card from Robot, I think, and he had been scamming him and like living off of ramen and pizza for the last 2 years and a half.
Oh God.
He was like, yeah, I stole his credit card. I've been using this whole entire time. And Ray is kind of getting upset because she's really determined to do something normal in her life. She wants to be able to, buy vegetables, buy food, and go home and cook dinner, not only for herself, but for the team, because she hasn't had anything normal happen, I guess, in her whole entirety of being a superhero at this point. As they try to like normalize and to really try to figure out, okay, we're really going to be determined here. And Rex decides, I'm gonna give it a chance. We're going to shop for groceries. We're going to have a family dinner together. And of course, what happens? A giant monster starts to attack the city, and they have to focus on what's really important. They got to save the world. That's what they do. That's their first job. Being a normal person is not a thing or an option for them when you think about it. When you saw the scene, how grounded did you feel this really made these two characters?
I think it just continued the tone from what we saw the first three episodes in regards to growing, evolving. When they left, Cecil and Co., we knew it was going to be a rough transition. And we talked about it before on our personal lives about growing up and moving out and having to fend for yourself. So this just continued that pattern of, what do you do now that you don't have Uncle Cecil's money, being over you or taking care of you? You got to figure it out while still navigating the life of a superhero. So that's doubly hard to have the life of a superhero, but also live on your own or amongst your group while trying to maintain normalcy. It's different for Mark because he still gets to live at home with mom, which we see later. But the transition about growth and them becoming young adults, I liked it. Good slice of life.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you need those kind of stories. But what I was confused on, and maybe you or the people can tell me in the comments, Shrinking Ray and him, did they have a moment beside the fact that he watched her die, kind of thing, like last season?
As far as I know, I mean, that's the only connection that they had together, I think. And
Yeah,
I think he said something when she finally came back, I believe in episode 2, that he used to visit her in her hospital bed like every day.
correct.
So I think that was kind of like a out of body experience for her, because of course she doesn't remember any of that, but for him it was a significance that he was showing that he cared, and probably that's the only person that he was going through that whole situation with, because as far as he knew, Kate was dead, right? I mean, he probably would have gravitated to her, you know, as someone like, oh my God, we're both healing together. But Shrinking Ray and Rex being Rex, I mean, I don't want to say he's a perv. He's just very like, he's got a lot of love to give. That's
he's horny.
Okay, there you go. Yep, that's it. That is Rex. So if it walks and talks, he's going after it.
But this is the thing about Rex that I've noticed already this season. There are cracks in the sarcastic Rexian armor that lets you in to who he truly wants to be. He's obviously wants to be a better person, but he lets his ego continuously take over. Right. But we're seeing a lot more of the humility of Rex, at least so far, compared to last season, where I couldn't stand him for the life of me. So,
yeah, it definitely feels like as Rex gets into more fights and there's more damage that he takes, definitely his armor of that whole entire like a joke is what is going to shield me from showing my true feelings starts to get broken down. I mean, granted, he's lost a hand. I'm pretty sure there's other parts of him that are actually bionic now at this point too, but it definitely, like you said, it definitely feels like we're chipping away the layers of who really makes Rex at this point, which I think is a great story to tell, besides the overall character dynamics in here. But after that, we kind of pick back up. We don't get to see the fight of them fighting this giant monster. I really want to see like what happened, like what did Shrinking Ray go inside and you know, the Thanos thing, or like did with Ant-Man, she's done it before in this whole entire season. So that is her go-to move now, as far as I know.
Shrink inside you and explode you. But that's what got her almost killed in the first place.
Exactly, because like the dude like contorted his body inside and started squeezing her. That was that was wild. But yeah, it picks back up and they're actually at the I guess you could say the Teen Hero headquarters, which is their new base besides for the Guardians location. And Rex kind of poses a question to everyone like, should we be more normal? Like, being who we are, is that okay? Like, should we be able to relate to other people more than what we are? And what do you think? Like, do you think he should be able to, or do you think what makes him Rex is not being normal?
I think what makes all these people is they only typically relate to themselves, right? To each other. We seem to be missing, and I don't know if that's by design because I haven't read the comic, so I don't know if it's by design, where there's a clear separation between the mortals, the normies, and the superheroes. It's not even so much pedestalizing. There's a clear divide between the Guardians and the people they guard. So the fact that they're willing to even think about it, right? To even, because he's been one of the most egotistical characters in this entire series. And for him to have moments of levity and to say, should we be a little bit more grounded because we're all super beings of some sort, being now that they're growing, again, keeping with that theme. So it's an interesting dynamic, but for him to be the one to question it, I know on the surface seems weird, but I think he's the perfect person because he's the #1 maverick renegade of all the group. So if he's growing up, air quotes, then what's to stop the team from growing up?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, crabs pull from the bottom of the barrel. So like you got to have the person that's at the top, or being the like you said, the most arrogant person in the group. If they're able to change their ways, then like what's stopping everybody else at this point? But yeah, in saying that, we kind of pick up also in this location when he poses this question that Mark starts, or he brings the orb or sphere that we got to see drone from the last episode 3 that he picked out of the window, or he was able to grab, that was like spying on him in that episode and his family. And they realize that, okay, somebody obviously knows that I'm invincible, right? Because they showed up at my house, they're spying on me, and he immediately thinks, okay, this is Cecil. Cecil's doing it. Well,
of course.
But like, is Cecil, and they say that in this episode, if Cecil wanted to spy on you, you would never know, right?
Correct.
He just that good. This is not the first superhero roundabout that he's done, you know, and not the last one that he's been able to spy on. So why did Mark even think, you know, that Cecil would have the audacity to even do something like that when they just had an altercation earlier? What do you think?
Personally, I get where Mark's coming from, right?
Yeah.
Because he just dealt with Cecil's shenanigans.
Right.
We don't know how much time has passed, but for us, it was last episode. Right. So obviously the first person you think of would be Cecil, because he's wanted to get his hands, in a sense, on Oliver as well. And we forgot that last week, where he did pay a visit to Oliver also. And Debbie was like, we ain't playing that game. So it would stand to reason to be Cecil, or to be assuming it's Cecil, to the point where, as we saw in the episode, he paid him a visit. And both, you know, him and Donald were just like, it's not us.
Yeah.
Like you said, if it was me, you wouldn't know about it.
Right.
So the fact that it was that out in the open for Cecil, it's like, that's not me. But then when Invincible leaves, Donald goes, what if he doesn't believe us? He's like, well, because it's true. We didn't spy on him.
Right.
This time. That time, they're not spying on him, but they've been spying on him before. Yeah, this one time, they're telling the truth. So I said it last week, and I'll say it again. Cecil, the more I see him, the more I get to know the character. This is a Nick Fury, you know, type of character where the greater good is above all, right? By hook or by crook, like I like to say. And a lot of gray. We talked about the last week. It's not so black and white as we thought in this universe. It's very gray. And that was even portrayed more in this episode, even though we felt it was filler, still a lot of gray, because Cecil's still doing what Cecil does behind the scenes. I didn't forget about how they jerked Donald around last season, where they kind of just made him an automaton.
Yeah.
You know, he's like Android 47 now. So I'm curious to see, one, who's spying on Mark. We seen a silhouette, right? So we thought it was Langstrom. Wouldn't be surprised if it's Langstrom. Wouldn't be surprised if it is. But if it's another mystery person, then that's part of the mystery. But the fact that Cecil said something too, like he was so scared of Mark because of what happened last week, right? This whole, like, I'm not leaving till you tell me the truth, or this person goes to jail. So Mark's gray is becoming a lot more black. As far as just his demeanor. And I'm sorry I'm taking so much time on this. It's just, I love the fact that we're getting little breadcrumbs to see everybody's darker selves this season. As opposed to just, we're heroes. That's it. Like, no, we're heroes with problems. You know, we got some issues going on. So that's something I took from this episode as well. Like this whole slice of life thing, I like it in bunches when it comes to like anime and such. So this was warranted, but do I trust Cecil? Nope. The only person I trust from there is Donald, and that's because he's a fucking robot. That's the only reason I trust him now.
The only trustworthy person is the person who's actually not human.
Correct. He's died 74 times. Yes, exactly.
That is so crazy. But now it kind of poses a question of who is spying on Mark and his family. Like I said, we've all have our assumptions. We got to see that little person who was behind the hundreds of TV cameras in front in the chair, but we never got to really. I don't think we even heard a voice. I don't think there was a voice in there.
We did.
We did.
We did.
Said something, right? It was like,
something along the lines of I'm always watching, something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's probably like an overseer or like someone that's like the watcher or something like that. No copy infringements.
Again, I don't understand how they get away with it, man. Like,
it's so crazy. But yeah, there's some higher power that's checking out Mark and has his eye out on what activity he's got going on. But then we kind of cut back, and now we get to see a little bit more of the personal life of Mark from aside from being a superhero, and he is meeting Eve for their second first date. Obviously, we know that their last first date got interrupted, and now this is their second first date. They kind of like have a little conversation, and he kind of leans in for a kiss, and she grimaces, and I'm like, damn, my boy ain't like hit no tic-tac.
Mark got no game, bro. No game.
He just striking out left and right. And then she says something like, he's like, did I say something wrong? And she's like, please tell me that's not a portal that's opening right next to us right now. Like, they can't catch a break. Like, everything, or every time they go out, just some type of level of threat happens on the planet. And we see right in the middle of the portal appears the twins that we saw in the first episode that stole the Declaration of Independence, and they are now back, and they need Invincible.
To come back to the past with them.
To come back to the future to save their timeline. Or not timeline, their world, I'll say that.
Which Mark doesn't believe at first.
He doesn't believe it at all. And he really just wants to get through this date, but he kind of like, I'm surprised he kind of just all right, as a superhero, I feel like if there's a threat, if there's something to help with or some type of greater good, you should probably consider that first before just being like, nah, no, bro, I'm on a date. I'm just trying to do my date. No, but I think we kind of understand where Mark's coming from because he's so tired of having to repeat the first steps over. You know what I'm saying? He's like, all right, I'm never going to get to second base if I can't get past first. Okay, that's not how baseball works. Let's just be honest here. I can't just go straight to second. Like, I got to take this in steps. And if somebody keeps interrupting what's going on with me, I can never have a solid or a foundational relationship. Can you side with Mark in this situation, or do you feel like he's being a little selfish? You know, great power comes great responsibility. What do you think?
And that's what I was thinking of. This is the Spider-Man trope where he wants to have his own life, but the balance between being a hero and being a person, if that makes sense to y'all, is night and day. So that's why when he said, man, I'm trying to finish my date, like, be gone.
Right.
That is something an anti-hero or a villain would say.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Not right now. Shim.
Huh? Right.
You know, where's my money? But again, it shows the change in Mark's thought process and his personality this season so far, where he's being a little bit more discerning about what and who he saves and helps. So remember, he wanted to arrest these two last episode.
Yeah, he did.
So hey, he's like, hey, they're back at the scene of the crime, and he wasn't going to help them, but they tell him, and I think it's Fight Master and Dropkick, I think are their names. We'll give you back the Declaration of Independence if you help us. So obviously it's still missing in the present world. So sure, let me blackmail him with the Declaration of Independence if you help us. So begrudgingly, Mark does it. And to be fair, I wouldn't have done it, but I understand the need to, well, this is a priceless artifact. Let me go get it and bring it back.
Yeah.
That's the hero thing to do, right?
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, that's what they do. Like bank robberies, stolen things from museum. They save that, you know, because that's what happened initially in the first episode. I mean, it was great enough a threat for him to say, all right, we can go and try to stop whoever's robbing this. So if you have that chance, then you might as well do it now. And they kind of tricked Mark because I think he extended his hand or something happened and they pulled him through the portal. And when they got through the portal, Mark was pissed. and was like, take me back. And they were like, we will, but
Nope.
you got to help us first, which is super bold because as we know, they have no powers. They're just really good at fighting.
Yeah.
They're just two normal dudes that are really good at kicking. So I'm like, and are they twins? They got to be twins, right?
They are twins. Yes.
They got the same face. I was like, there's no way
they are twins.
they're not twins. I was like, all right, no real names. They're just drop kicking,
Fight Master,
and Fight Master. Great names.
You could have sworn they were a wrestling tag team.
Like, what's your tag team name?
Fight Masters.
The Karate Kick Boys, probably. So so now that Mark is up to it, and they get on his little hoverboard, and there's a weird little scene in there because they're like, hey, how did you get your clothes on? Like, is that underneath your outfit already? Right. And he's like, yeah, it's just underneath my clothes. I wear it all the time. And they're like, oh, that's weird. And then another Mark jumps through a portal and grabs his clothes that he was wearing so he doesn't have to hold them. And the way he does it is really sad. He's like, thanks. And just leaves, just disappears like nothing happened. And Mark says, like, was that me from like another timeline? They're like, yeah, that was you. He's like, why'd I seem so sad? He was like, well, a lot of Invincibles are different. And I'm like, or that Invincible's been through a lot more than you have. And I'm like, well, what did that one go through? Like, what did he
exactly?
Did he try and fail? And now he's in his own world again, and they're just using him to pick up clothes now? Like, what? It was a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions, but they just kind of skimmed over it very briefly. But they're explaining that this mission requires Mark to kill the king who basically took over their planet, because right now I think they're like thousands of years ahead of where Mark is right now. And this king basically took over the planet, and as the planet is being ruled by him and these other robots, Mark's only question is that you picked me because I'm strongest, right? And I'm seen to be strong enough to be able to defeat the king. But is he a Viltrumite? And they say, we don't know what that is, which is crazy. So it's like, who is that then? Like, who are they about to get fight? I mean, we know because we saw the episode, but for them to say what's a Viltrumite, where did the Viltrumites go? Did they just leave?
That's what I was gonna say. It's intriguing. A world without Viltrumites.
Yeah, like what happened? I mean, when you heard that, did you have a lot more? I mean, I'm pretty sure you had a lot more questions than we knew what was going on.
Even still, us talking about it, I just want to know where the other Mark went. Did he just give up, like you said, give up and go back to his timeline? Well, I can't kill the king, so I got to go. Or is he the Mark from that timeline who just said, I'm out, y'all, and just kept it moving? Yeah. So, because he just popped in the portal, took the clothes, and then he was gone. And it was,
thanks for the duds. Like, what's going on?
Like, no amount of rewind and replay is going to make me understand that. So
never going to explain it to me. Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. So what they do is they say, we have to make a lot of noise for these robots or these like robotic soldiers that the king has ruling over the land to come and capture us. So they grab a machine gun and start shooting in the air, and these robots come, and of course, Mark being Mark and being the superhero he is, decides, all right, let me beat the crap out of all of these robots. And the twins say, wait, no, we want to be captured so we can go to the king. He's like, oh, why don't you guys say that? So more robots come, they get captured, they go to the king's castle, or I guess you call it a castle. You didn't really say that. It's just really a big old building, like the Baxter building, right? They go to the king's location, and they decide to split apart Mark and the twins. So the twins go to another location, and Mark is asking, hey, where are you taking them? And the robots say to be executed. And Mark's like, I'm about to break out and help them. And they're like, no, we'll be good, which is bold, okay, for two guys with no powers at all to say. So they say, you have to get closer to the king. So don't worry about us. We'll be able to break out. The robots not hear that? Do they not even hear we're going to break out? Don't worry. I'd be like, all right, tighten up their shit. Like, tighten up their damn cuffs right now.
It's because no crime has taken place.
That's true.
They're just talking about it. Doesn't mean they're doing it.
Yeah. So there's not really anything you can do about it. They just have to follow whatever their protocol
their
is.
programming.
Right. So eventually he is brought to the king, Mark, and the twins go off to be executed, so we think. And the person that's in the chair was this withered down, exhausted guy. And we look at him and you can see it in the crown of his nose exactly who it is. And the king is immortal. The guy who can't die, right?
Right.
When you saw Immortal being the king over the land, what was your initial thoughts on that?
I wasn't surprised at all, because as you said, and as he says in his little soliloquy, he's lived thousands and thousands of years and lost so many loved ones.
Yeah.
When people talk about immortality in shows, that is the number one regret that they have, is that they will lose everyone they love.
Yeah.
So this version of Immortal, because remember, Kate, he didn't even remember Kate.
Yes, he said that.
He just said, like, I've had tons of wives. You know, he got around like Tupac, he got around. But like you said, he was so withered, so disheveled that, remember how last episode we was getting on him for simping? Yeah. For simping over Kate? Yeah. This is a complete 180 where he's just gone off the deep end.
Yeah. Yep.
Like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And just it was sad to see, but given his powers and how that would translate in reality, I get why he's lonely and insane.
No, it makes sense, because when you think about the power of immortality, right, you also don't think about how much strain it does on the mind, right? Correct. Like how much grief and how much death and grief can one person really handle? You know, because us as humans in a lifetime, we only experience so much, right? Because there's a limited time that we're here. But for someone that's here forever, it's just a continuous cycle of death and war and, you know, love and pain. It's like the brain was only required to keep to hold so much, but his body can just survive through it all. So it's like,
you know what this reminded me of? This is what happens when Vandal Savage doesn't have what's the word I'm looking for? When you have that want to get better, you know, to improve, that's Vandal Savage. This version, this Immortal is not Vandal Savage. He does not have ambition at all. No. That's it.
Zero.
Vandal Savage has ambition to live forever and rule the world. Immortal is like, kill me. I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. That's where he's at right now.
Yeah, he's like, I didn't even ask for this. Like, I don't even know how did I get here? Like, yeah. He's like, what the hell is going on? Somebody take me out. But in this scene, we do see that him and Mark are having a conversation back and forth, and he asks Mark, where did his family go? Why did they leave him here in charge? Right. Like, he really wasn't fit to do this position. So why did you leave him here to be able to rule over these people? You know, and the only reason he did all this and he's tormenting these people is so that Mark would come back and save them, hoping that when Mark comes back that he would end up killing him. Right. And I was like, that's so for hundreds of years you've been killing and ruling over these people, hoping that Mark would come back. How long did you think it would take for Mark to come back? Like within the first year, I'd be like, oh, he's not coming back, bro. We might as well just stop right now. But I mean, what do you, when you thought his logic of why he wanted Mark to come back, what did you think of that though?
I mean, it's like in real world work, right? When the person that's supposed to be in charge leaves and you think they're coming back to the job, and then let's say they're on FMLA and they never come back. That is what happened with Mark. He went on FMLA and never came back. So obviously, if I'm on that team, I'm going to have to pick up the slack. But what's got me tripped out is what you just said, because it filled in a small gap for me. The fact that Immortal was killing people to get Mark's attention to come back shows how off the deep end that our man Immortal has gone after all these years.
Yeah. I mean, because he didn't even stop. You know, that's the part that's confusing me, because it's like, okay, Mark could get there maybe year, 2 years, depending on how far he went. I don't know how space travel works, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm pretty sure it takes a long time to get to places, but thousands of years Immortal's been killing all these people. just to
Mm-hmm.
get Mark back there. And that is psychotic, bro. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of crazy to even think of that concept. But yeah, I mean, doing so, him and Mark having this conversation, and he sees Mark and he realizes, like, man, you're kind of skinny and you look really weak. Like,
Yeah.
Are you sick? Or I thought your family cured that sickness that you had. So that kind of put another question in there, like, okay, is Mark going to get sick? Like, is something going to happen to Mark later on where he ends up getting or contracting something, like, we think about like settlers or different people that go to different planets and different locations. There's always a
Right.
virus or something that your body can't fight off because you're not used to that location or to that
Mm-hmm.
atmosphere. I think about smallpox or something like that, or tuberculosis or something, to that extent. But I'm like, is that going to happen to Mark? Because he said it. I mean, though it is the future and everything can change because this is, a loose uh idea of what the future will actually be now, since Mark went in the future and changed things. But it kind of just posed another question, like, are we getting a glimpse at really what's going to happen later on? Or do you think it was just something that was cooked up and we'll probably never hear about it again?
I think this is what we've been building to so far this season,
Mhm.
where Mark is kind of turning into the dark side
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah.
And I've seen enough shows about multiverse theory and the future and the past to know that, hey, look, Dragon Ball Z was Goku died because he didn't have the heart medicine. For anyone
Yeah.
who doesn't
Yeah.
watch Dragon Ball Z, same difference.
Mhm.
Apparently, in this universe, Mark got sick.
Yeah.
From what we don't know, going back to the end of season 2 when he met, future Eve, where they don't really talk about where he went. Nobody
Right.
knows. So
Yeah.
Mark is still making what he's learning about himself. We're learning as an audience,
Yeah.
but he's a lot closer to the Marks that were killing people last season than ever before.
Yeah. Yeah. He's, I mean, I
He's going
I don't know.
he's going through it, man.
He's struggling, bro. And I'm struggling to watch it because I'm like, all right, Mark, do the right thing. But at the same time, I'm like, that boy gone. He is gone. He is gone right now. Or he's almost gone. I would say that. And like we talked about, even the costumes darker, his
Mm-hmm.
his
The
his
mood's
attitude
darker.
towards going out his way to save people is a little bit more, or less convinced.
Mm-hmm.
And his ability to trust people, in a whim's notice is very, very low right now. Like he's slowly starting, I don't want to say turn his back, but he just seems to, you know, be
Rigid, a
making,
little bit
yeah,
more distant, and
yeah, a
got the
little bit
walls
more
up.
distant. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
for sure, for sure.
But think about it. Even though we know Cecil is a bit of an asshole, right?
Mhm.
He still trusted Cecil, and Cecil, one, employed murderous villains,
Mhm.
two, put a thing in his ear his head that just destroys his equilibrium,
Still working. Yep.
and it's still working.
Yeah.
So the person you put unknowingly, maybe unknowingly, put your trust in, sort of like, okay, Transformers 1, where
Right.
Megatron thought when he was D16, thinking, oh yeah, this is my hero. I want to be just like him. I
Yeah.
trust
Yeah.
him. All for it to be, all for naught. So when the person you trust, especially at work, let's just keep it to work, your mentor,
Yeah.
showing you the ropes, you think he's got a good heart, and it turns out he's more closer to chaotic neutral
Yep.
than to lawful good. You were like,
A lot of those
whoa,
out there.
whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
So Mark's world got turned upside down.
Yep. You take a 35-minute lunch. You only supposed to take a 30. They writing you up. Well, Cecil, thanks a lot, Cecil. Thanks a lot for ruining everything for everybody. So in doing so, Immortal decides, all right, I have to force Mark's hand.
Start wailing on
Since he has
him.
basically gone off the edge at this point. He is tired of living and he wants Mark to end his life. We get to see the twins actually break out and kill the robots that they did their kung fu on, and they appear in the castle or in the king's quarters.
Yes.
Immortal sees them and says, you know what, if you're not going to kill me, then I'm going to kill them. Mark being Mark, he has a heart for people that he knows and he cares about, but he does have some sort of restraint still. But once you press a button,
yes,
and there's no going back. Like Mark really, he shifts.
He's good at that.
He's either left or right. There is no in the middle with him. He's like, all right, either I'm gonna be really chill and not do anything, or I'm just gonna like bust someone's head open right now. And he does get into this fight with Immortal, and he ends up ripping Immortal's head off, clean cut, spine and everything, comes straight out. And
Sub-Zero Mortal Kombat style, exactly.
The twins said something like, "Oh, I didn't expect you to do that." Like, yeah, that'll work. I didn't think he's gonna do it like that. Like, damn, like, all right. They were even surprised. So, and then he says after that, like, okay, the only way to keep him dead is to separate his parts.
Keep away from each other,
keep him away from each other, because if not, he will. I don't know if the spine will crawl back to the. I don't know how that should work. I've never seen it.
Like Deadpool.
Yeah, like it'll just grow and like the head will grow a new body, or
like so.
That's wild. Okay, they should just burn them if that's the case. Like
that could have worked.
Like Twilight. Like, I mean, that sounds about right to me.
Burn the Volturi. Yes, exactly.
Immediate fire starts. Like, how do they start that fire? Like, poof, okay, cool. But anyway, back to Invincible. But and then we get to see now that we kind of peer back, and Mark is brought back to the present time. Yeah, basically nothing changed. He basically has been gone for like a few seconds. Eve thought he was still like going to be gone for a while, and he basically picks right back up where he left off in the date. In doing so, the twins kind of argue about how he ended up saving them, which is kind of unimportant, to be honest with you. But now Mark is going to end up ensuing or having this second date finally with Eve, and it turns into a music video, to be honest with you. They start flying past the pyramids and going past
so much love.
I was like, damn, they fast, right? I'm like, this is one afternoon. Like, this is no time past. And, they're having this romantic date. And in doing so, it ends up with them going to bed. Okay.
I'll check a wow time.
My man, that's right. He understood the assignment. And they end up in Mark's room. And it's funny because Eve, she could deal with matter and change things. She touches his clothes and they end up both naked. And I'm like, damn, where'd they go? We were wondering where the other Mark took the clothes. We just need to be aware about where she put the clothes at this point. That was, I mean, and we, it doesn't, of course it doesn't.
Saves time, man.
It saves time. Ain't nobody got time to be peeling off stuff. Okay. So you got to get straight to it. Especially in your mom's house, obviously. So yeah, I mean, I think it was very G-rated regardless, though. It wasn't very, anything crazy going on and stuff.
But be honest, when they was about to go up and the narrator comes on and says, let's give them their privacy. I'm over here, I'm laughing while watching this, like, really? Okay.
Narrator came out of nowhere.
Let's check in with Alan and Nolan.
Yeah,
it's like a buddy cop.
And that was a good. Let me think. That was about. We get about a good 30 minutes with Alan and Nolan. So good job, Mark. Do your thing, brother. But yeah, we get all right. So it cut scenes after the narrator jumps in there after they are having their adult time, and Alan is basically still trying to recruit Nolan. Nolan is at the point where he's like, okay, I'm strong enough. They can just go ahead and kill me. Like I'm gonna get executed. I'm done. When watching this part, right? Did you ever think, what, Nolan is really just fed up, or did you ever think there was something deep down in him that really didn't want to die?
I think when we got that small little caveat last season of, I think I miss my wife. So there was a glimmer of hope there, but also the fact that Nolan, and I know the Viltrumites do this where they populate an area, then, put it under their rule and they marry into the, whatever the species is that's on that planet.
Right. Right.
Nolan did do that for the secondary planet. So, what's his name? The other kid.
Oh, Oliver.
Oliver's biological mom is from a different planet. Right. So it's in Nolan to give a shit, right? It's in Nolan to at least have a semblance. I mean, think about Mark Think, where he flew off because he knew, like, I love my son.
Yeah.
And he's conflicted. And during the execution, you get to see the anguish in him, knowing that he betrayed his Viltrumite heritage in a way.
Yeah.
Because he became, I'm going to say it in a general sense, he became more human.
Yeah.
He was humanized. So connections and love, and maybe I shouldn't be this, warmonger conquering entity.
Right.
It could be something different. It took a while because he was resigned to his fate. It took about a good 15 minutes, but he was resigned to his fate. And they were putting the work in on him, man. They were
my God. They were tearing him up. But he was just eating them too. Eating them punches. I'm like, yeah, he had the bloodshot eye on one side, black eye on the other, mouth bleeding. And there was like a joke in there that, like, after he got beat up the first time, that Alan was like, do you change your mustache? Do you do something about your mustache? Is it thinner? It looks different. Oh, that's weird. But while this whole execution is going on, Alan eventually breaks out of his cell and decides, you know what, I gotta help Nolan, because this is the time. The time is now. Like, this is it. If we don't have we don't have Nolan on our side, then we're not going to be able to defeat the Viltrumites at the end. And these, like, little purple minions come on it. I'm not, minions isn't a good word for them, right? The putties, yeah. The aliens with purple faces in the guns come out and start shooting at Alan. And Alan sees that he's not the only prisoner here. There's other prisoners that are locked down, and I have to break them all out, because maybe they can help us overthrow this whole entire ship. And these other aliens start to give a little go. They start going, they start fighting, and then we start seeing them get torn to shreds like paper with these guns. And I'm like, man, they didn't last very long at all. So Alan's sitting there like, oh man, like, it's just me. I don't have any help. And then he sees one cell at the end of the hall that's huge, and it has a huge warning sign on it: do not open, keep your distance. And he decides to open it because he's like, whatever's back here has to be able to help me take over this ship.
Right.
He opens it up, and it's Battle Beast that we got to see in season 1, I believe. How did Battle Beast get on the Viltrumite ship? Who knows? I'm not even sure, to be honest with you. Was he captured? Yeah, maybe I forgot, or maybe something. Maybe he got punched into space, and then, like, he got picked up or something, just floating, because he can't fly, so he had to get picked up somehow. But yeah, Battle Beast is more than enthused in his slightly Shakespearean dialogue that he gets to fight in a battle. He's basically like a gladiator, to be honest with you.
Essentially, yes. Yeah, he craves strong fighters. That's it.
Yeah. His purpose is to shed blood. That's what he wants to do at this point. And then we go through this whole entire fight scene, and they eventually get to Nolan's location, and Alan decides, I'm gonna fake like I'm getting beat up to really appeal to the human side of Nolan, to see if he'll not only take pity, but see if he really cares about another person that he's grown close to. I mean, granted, they're not like sharing war stories, best friends, buddies, but Nolan does have some type of sense of heart, or some type of resilience towards the greater evil, I think.
Correct.
I mean, he was a bad guy, but he's not the final boss.
The bad guy.
Yeah,
he's not
the final boss. So Nolan decides to break out, and he decides to fight back with Alan. Watching this scene, do you think this is one of the best fights that we got to see in Incredible?
I like the fight choreography. I like the team up. I'm a big fan of team ups, going all the way back to Marvel team up back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah. I love team ups. So seeing them work together, because think about it this way: you couldn't have had Nolan do it by himself, because he was getting hammed up before. So he's a little weakened. He's a little, disheveled and whatnot. Alan says he was letting himself get beat up, but I don't know about that. I think a lot
I
of
think
that,
he's really getting beat up.
that's that. Yeah, I think that's that Seth Rogen, like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
nothing to see here. It was all good.
Yeah.
But seeing them fight one Viltrumite and then Battle Beast with the second Viltrumite, so we got some stuff happening. And I will say the battle choreography, I loved it. I said, okay, this is a real, and I'm going to bring it back to Dragon Ball Z. This is a very Dragon Ball Z-esque, Hunter Hunter-esque fight, which I'm like, okay, I can rock with this. And it woke me up from the boredom.
No, it did.
From the Mark and Eve romance bullshit.
Yeah.
The fighting and the violence and because that's what brought people into Invincible in the first place, right?
Yeah.
The graphics fighting, the visuals, things like that. So we finally got it after these first 3 episodes. We're kind of just story building, and now we're getting the war. And well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, they did a great job. I mean, I guess we got to see, the potential of not only Alan, but the ferocity of we already knew what Nolan could do, to be honest with you. But when Nolan really puts his mind to it, man, that dude is dangerous, because he is so much faster than Mark. Sorry, Mark, you're really strong, bro, but you ain't there. So you gotta eat your Wheaties, man, like your dad or something, bro, because he is a beast. But him and Alan are taking on one of the Viltrumites, so they actually take the fight out of the spaceship into space. So they're fighting, and somehow they end up both start driving towards the one Viltrumite, and they both punch
in the middle.
Same time. One punches the back of the head, one punches the front. I called it the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger movie double whammy that they did with Ivan Ooze's goons. He's like, yeah, that's what it reminded me of, but a lot more blood. No purple blood.
No purple blood. No,
this was real human blood. And Viltrumite, he's cooked. That's it. It was done. And Battle Beast was fighting another Viltrumite, and they're sitting there like, hey, where'd the other guy go? They're like, I don't know. He's somewhere. He's so far in space, still fighting, and they're like,
because the last time we saw them, they were rolling around in space, like as if they're rolling down a hill, fighting each other. So, of course, they're just gonna get caught in the vacuum of space. That's fine.
Gone. They might be still fighting right now. To be honest with you, I don't even.
As we speak,
that might be a weird thing that we see, like the end of episode 5, maybe. Like we still see Battle Beast and this Viltrumite like just floating and fighting, and in the sky or something. I think it'd be crazy. But yeah, in doing so, Alan finally gets the notion from Nolan that I'm gonna help you. Like, this is it. I'm gonna join your team, and I'm gonna help you not only save the planet, but I'm gonna try to help you save his family. What do you think this reunion is gonna be like when he gets to Earth?
Awkward. We said it last week. Awkward. Yeah. Is Debbie gonna forgive him? Is she just gonna slap him in the face like, you left me? I thought you were dead. And what about Mark? Mark's going to say, oh, Alan, my boy's here, but the hell you brought him for? That kind of stuff. And then there's Oliver, who may see his dad, and he's the youngest child seeing his dad for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
Pull it back to Dragon Ball Z. Goten seeing Goku for the first time ever after he died. So it's like, oh, hey, Dad, I've never really met you, but nice to meet you. And who's to say, because now Mark is turning into a little bit of a dark-sided character, Nolan may be proud of that.
Yeah.
Same with Oliver. He might be proud of the fact that they're both turning to be more Viltrumite style, right?
Yeah.
In their law enforcement, I guess, or the superheroing. They're more violent, and he might be proud of that. I just want to know what's up with Debbie. Is she going to take them back right away? Is she rendezvousing with what's his face still? Like, what's really happening? Paul. Yeah. What's really happening with Debbie?
Yeah, I don't know. She can't be caught canoodling with Paul, man. If Nolan show up, Paul gonna be. He worried about his hair losing. He'll be losing more than his hair. Lose his life. So I don't know. I kind of hope the opposite. To be honest with you, I hope Nolan has kind of taken this and kind of had a different outlook on life now that he kind of experienced that whole okay, this is the time for me to take over the planet, and I decided to do the right thing because of my
Right.
son. And hopefully he can use that to kind of not only shape Oliver, who's gonna, I mean, immediately probably look up to him because he never really knew his father as a baby. So now he's like, wow, like this is my dad. He's here. It's gonna be awkward, of course. And Oliver's gonna want to do everything with him, and Nolan's gonna be like, all right, little dude, like, do I know you? Are you sure you're my son?
Easy, kid.
Kind of like
Easy.
me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I'm hoping he can kind of reshape Mark to pull him back away from that dark side, you know. And I'm hoping that, you know, just like in all of the other universes where Invincible ends up being the bad guy, I'm hoping
Right.
this one is the different one. This is the one where like Mark decides, you know what, I'm gonna take the light path because my dad decided to do that because of me, you know. So
Right.
there's a lot of hope in there for the
That's a good
next.
catch. I wouldn't
Yeah,
even think about that. That's a good
yeah,
catch.
yeah. I'm hoping, you know, it's a lot of hope in there for the next couple episodes that I'm really excited about. And then for our very last scene that we see in here, Mark is in the room with Eve still. So we cut back to that, and they're like
He's done.
giggling after they just finished doing what they did. And the mom is like, Mark, why is this door locked? Are you okay? He's like, I'm naked, mom. I'm she's like, okay. He's like, yeah, I'm about to go to sleep. And Eve like giggles and says something, and the mom is still at the door. She's like,
What
what'd
you
you say?
said?
I was like, damn, I thought you were gone. She said goodnight and everything. She was like,
And
still
that's what moms
listening.
do. That's
Yep.
what moms do.
Yep. They do. They do that. And then the show kind of cuts off, and then we're just kind of left to wonder what is next for the next episode, which is episode 5. So how would you rate this episode, man? How did you feel about it out of 10?
7. I didn't really dig the lovey-dovey stuff, but that's just
Yeah.
my personal preference.
Yeah.
But the action set piece really brought me back to say,
Yeah.
okay, now we're really watching a superhero show.
Yeah.
So I'm all about that. So I'll give it a 7.
Yeah, I definitely say a 7 too. I definitely think they try to add in a lot more character depth and dynamics
Yes.
while giving us a little bit of light and dark, but at the same time they kind of threw us off with the whole music video part where the Valentine's, or not Valentine's, but the date turned into like a music video and then flying through the sky. But what definitely brought it back, like you said, was the fight scenes. You know, that's what a lot of, that's where you make your bread and butter for the money right there, is because that's how we know this comic of Invincible to be very violent, not only grotesque, but cut no cards when it comes to the violence on this show. So we're not violent addicts, but we're like, we do like seeing the shows that we think are going to be
Little
violent
edge.
actually be
Little
violent.
edge.
Like, yeah,
Mhm.
like if I every time I tune into an episode, I'm like, all right, something wild's gonna happen. And if nothing wild happens, I'm like, oh, that was weird. Like, what was that about? So yeah, everybody at home, make sure you check out Invincible season 3 episode 4, premiering just before Valentine's Day, February 13th, only on Prime Video. Damien, where can everybody check you out?
You can find me at Damien G Show across the board. Typically, that covers Instagram, it covers X. If you really want to get to know me on a personal level, it's the Damien Gracia on Instagram. And as you can see behind me, that is the Retro Cartoon Rewatch banner, where I typically take cartoons from the 70s to the 2000s. I watch them back in real time, and we watch them together to see how bad they suck. And this week we are continuing watching Dragon Ball Z Abridged from Team 4 Star and reacting to the 13-year-old comedy parody of Dragon Ball Z and see how it stacks up to current pop culture. So far, so dated.
No, I bet. And everybody can check me out at Cam's Collection, as well as Just Cam for Now on Instagram and also YouTube. If you guys like more content and want to see more content just like this, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you can be the first one to know about new content that we drop on a week-to-week basis. And make sure you go ahead and check us out at biggoldbeltmedia.com. And until next time, peace.